Hello and welcome to Undead Gaming News, your one-stop shop for all things gaming. I'm your host Zombie, and first up this week, we of course have Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, which took place on Thursday the 8th of June, and it was kicked off by Ubisoft's reveal of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which is a 2D action platforming game, with the prince dual-wielding swords and a fast-paced combat style. We see him battle several beasts, and use some of the powers that he had in Sands of Time. We'll see more of it at Ubisoft Forward, but the game will be released on the 18th of January 2024. NetherRealm Studios followed Ubisoft with an extended look at Mortal Kombat 1 via a better look at the gameplay and story, which involves a completely rebooted version of the Mortal Kombat universe. And of course, throughout all of the gameplay it featured, there was plenty of gruesome fatalities for you to get stuck into when it launches on September the 19th this year. New Zealand's Grinding Gear Games then showed off a brief look at a sequel to their popular action RPG Path of Exile, which has been long in development. More of Path of Exile 2 will be shown on the 28th of July, 2023. Capcom then had a bit of a crossover announcement for its upcoming dino shooter Exoprimal, revealing that robotic versions of Street Fighter characters Ryu and Guile would be in the game. Exoprimal will arrive on July the 14th, with the Street Fighter crossover happening sometime this fall. This was then followed by Nicolas Cage taken to the stage as part of his collaboration with the asymmetrical multiplayer horror game Dead by Daylight, where he plays an exaggerated version of himself. He talked a bit about how he got involved in the process of recording voiceover lines, which was a new experience for him. Nicolas Cage will arrive as a survivor in Dead by Daylight on July the 25th, and then a new trailer for the first-person shooter called Witchfire was then revealed, revealing an early access launch date. It involves a Victorian-era inspired world with guns, monsters and magic, and it was quickly followed by a trailer for Crossfire Sierra Squad, which of course is a VR first-person shooter which is launching in August. And then a trailer for Remnant 2 was next, the third-person shooter roguelike series, which mixes steampunk-looking technology with hard sci-fi elements for a cooperative experience. Sega then announced Sonic Superstars, which appears to pay homage to the 2D Sonic games, but with a 3D art style. Playable characters of course include Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy Rose, and it is coming sometime this fall. Then there was a new trailer for Honkai Star Rail, which is celebrating its upcoming release on PlayStation 5, and it'll arrive in Q4 of 2023. After that, a release date was shared for Lies of P, which of course is an upcoming Souls-like game where you play as Pinocchio in a Victorian reinterpretation of the story, which features several horrific monster designs, and it's being developed by NeoWiz, and will be released on the 19th of September 2023. A demo is currently available on all platforms as well. Next was a trailer for Sandland, which is a game based on the manga series by Akira Toriyama. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic desert world where you play as the demon prince Beelzebub on a quest to find water. And then there was the new open-world MMORPG from NCSoft and Amazon Games, which features a high fantasy world with towering beasts, large environments, and the ability for the protagonist to shapeshift into animals. That game was Throne and Liberty, and it is free to play and arriving on the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series S and X. Then a trailer for a new game from Nexon was revealed, that features flashy medieval-style battles against hordes of enemies in trepidatious environments. This was followed by a brief series of trailers for Party Animals, as well as a content update for Dying Light 2, and also Crash Team Rumble. Remedy's Sam Lake then took to the stage to talk about the much-anticipated Alan Wake 2. Described as Remedy's first survival horror game, it will feature both Alan Wake and his co-protagonist, FBI agent Saga Anderson, in equal measures. It's being treated as a standalone experience as you begin the game playing as Saga, investigating a series of ritualistic murders, and uncovering the mysteries of the author Alan Wake, who is trapped in the dark place. It sounds like you'll be free to switch between both characters throughout the game, and unravel the intertwined story however you want. Alan Wake 2 will be released on the 17th of October 2023. A gruesome looking trailer was then shown for the sequel to Warhammer Space Marine, its third-person cooperative shooter set in the Warhammer 40k universe. Warhammer Space Marine 2 will be released in winter. And then we had a trailer for the sequel to Yes Your Grace. This one is called Yes Your Grace Snowfall, and it's a game where you play as the ruler of a kingdom and must make decisions brought to you on your throne by your advisors to manage your kingdom. Following that was Saber Interactive, Focus Entertainment and horror cinema legend John Carpenter, bringing us Toxic Commando, which is a first-person shooter seemingly about a squad of mercenaries taking on hordes of zombies and other monstrosities, both on foot and from the safety of their armoured vehicles. It looks like a Left 4 Dead style cooperative shooter, which is arriving in 2024. Then a new trailer for the upcoming RPG Baldur's Gate 3 was shown off, as it showed the new antagonist, Gortash, voiced by Jason Isaacs. The game is arriving on the 31st of August 2023. Insomniac's creative director Brian Intihar then took to the stage to talk a bit more about the studio's upcoming sequel, Spider-Man 2, revealing the box art and talking about its villains, Kraven and Venom, though he stated that there will be more villains as well. He also revealed that Venom of this universe will not be Eddie Brock. A release date was also given for the game, which is going to be the 20th of October 2023, and of course it will be a PS5 exclusive. We then got a new look at Palworld, which is essentially a Pokemon game where all the Pokemon can wield guns. Early access for that game will begin in January of 2024. A trailer for a new Black Desert Online expansion that draws inspiration from Korean folklore was then shown. It's called Land of the Morning Light. This was followed by a trailer for Lord of the Rings Return to Moria, which is a game where you play as a dwarf, digging and fighting underground. A trailer for a new mobile game from Square Enix was then shown for Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which features an homage to the original art style of Final Fantasy VII, highly detailed turn-based combat, scenes, and several new characters. A playtest is coming soon. And then from Focus Entertainment comes Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, which is a third-person action game where you embody two characters simultaneously, one of whom exists in the spirit world. You'll use both of them in combat, and the narrative seemingly involves their complicated relationship. And then we had a trailer for the new game in the Like a Dragon series, which is Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. The game's details were leaked prior to the event, unfortunately, but it will be releasing on November the 9th. A trailer for the upcoming narrative adventure game set underwater, called Under the Waves, was then shown. You'll play as a lone protagonist who comes to believe he might not be alone beneath the water. It arrives on the 29th of August, 2023. A brief hype reel was then shown for the new Warzone map, Vondel, seemingly inspired by Europe, as it features a castle and a football stadium. The Battle Royale is launching its 4th season on June the 14th. And then we had Fae Farm, which is a new life simulator inspired by the Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing, and it got a new trailer to announce its arrival on Nintendo Switch and PC on the 8th of November 2023. Ben Brode from Second Dinner then took to the stage to talk about Marvel Snap, and to announce the game's biggest update ever, with a new mode called Conquest, which is a competitive version of its Friend Battle Mode feature. And then we had a new trailer for a game called Lysfanga, which is a top-down RPG that lets you rewind time, which creates duplicate versions of yourself and your previous actions each time, and that's coming to PC sometime this year. Actor Darren Barnett then introduced some new gameplay footage for Immortals of Avium, which is a Magic-themed shooter developed by Call of Duty alumni and published by EA Originals. The game arrives on the 20th of July 2023. The cinematic trailer for the next season of Fortnite called Wilds then premiered. This update to the game will introduce crossover characters from Transformers, including Optimus Prime. And then finally, Square Enix revealed a first look at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is of course the sequel to the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it showed the outside world of Midgard, which of course encompassed the entire first game, and it will be released early 2024 on 2 Blu-ray discs in its physical edition. But outside of Summer Games Fest, we did have some new gameplay footage of Robocop Rogue City being released, which delves deep into the game and its content. Robocop Rogue City is set between Robocop 2 and Robocop 3, and the campaign will roughly be 20 to 30 hours long, depending on how fast you play. And as you'd expect, when playing the role of Robocop, you'll be able to conduct investigations, find clues, and make arrests. And apparently Robocop does feel rather slow, due to the immense amount of armour he wears, which seemingly allows you to easily defeat enemies without any issues. There's also an upgrade system which allows the player to change certain attributes as you progress, with players given the option to upgrade things including armour and combat. Robocop Rogue City is being developed by Teon and being published by Nacon, and will release in September on PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X. Also in the news, after a lengthy period of silence, Paradox Interactive have shared some new screenshots for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, along with a new date to look forward to. In an update, Paradox acknowledged that it's been quite a while since they shared news of the game, which has been moved to an unannounced developer and nearly cancelled back in 2021. But in the blog, Paradox announced that while new screenshots of Bloodlines 2 have been uploaded to the game's Steam page, fans will have to wait until September for more news of the game, when Paradox will then plan to announce Bloodlines 2's developer and provide more information on a release date. However, Paradox's latest update also confirmed that some existing pre-orders for the Bloodlines sequel are being cancelled. While everyone who pre-ordered the game will be offered an optional refund, the studio will be offering refunds for the game's First Blood, Unsanctioned and Blood Moon editions, while all pre-orders for a physical copy of the game, including the Collector's Edition, have all been automatically refunded. However, Paradox is unable to guarantee refunds and or payments to Russian buyers due to the sanctions that are on the country. In other news, we have Capcom, as they've announced via Twitter a new showcase event, which is happening tonight, June the 12th. The Capcom Showcase is Capcom's digital event, which unveils new information on its upcoming games and revealing brand new games for Xbox Series S and X PC and PS5. The Capcom Showcase is scheduled to go live at about 3 PM Pacific Time, 6 PM Eastern Time, and 11 PM British Time, and it will run for approximately 36 minutes, according to Capcom's website. Over on the Nintendo side of things, they've added 4 more games to their Nintendo Switch Online service. The NES library gets one new game, which is called Mystery Tower, which is a newly renamed release of Namco's Famicom game, Tower of Babel. This marks the first time that the game has been released outside of Japan. The SNES library also gets one new title, the first game in the Harvest Moon series, and then the Game Boy Color library gets 2 new games, which is the motion-controlled action game Kirby Tilt and Tumble, and then Blaster Master Enemy Below. NES, SNES, Game Boy and Game Boy Color games are all part of the standard Switch Online subscription, which costs $20, £18 or €20 for a 12-month individual membership. Other plans, of course, are available. Also in the news, a new report contains the news that almost 12 years on from launch, EA is moving the ongoing support for Star Wars The Old Republic from an in-house BioWare team to the third-party studio Broadsword Online Games. Broadsword may not be a household name, but it's not the first MMO they've been handed to take care of. They also run Ultima Online and Dark Age of Camelot. It seems like Star Wars The Old Republic fits the same boat, with enough players to keep it viable but not enough to justify continued significant investment. The report says things are at an advanced stage with EA and Broadsword having signed a letter of intent, and the deal is due to be finalised later this month. Fans of the game may take some solace in knowing that Broadsword's founder is Mythic Entertainment's co-founder, Rob Denton, who worked on Star Wars The Old Republic in its earliest stages. Following the report, EA issued this statement. Almost 12 years after launch, Star Wars The Old Republic remains a success and continues to grow its dedicated and passionate community. We're so proud of the work that the team has done, and the future of the game and the community continues to be very bright. We are evaluating how we give the game and the team the best opportunity to grow and evolve, which includes conversations with Broadsword, a boutique studio that specialises in delivering online community-driven experiences. Our goal is to do what's best for the game and its players. So it seems pretty much like a done deal, but with the core development team estimated to be 70 to 80 people, of which roughly half are expected to transition to Broadsword along with the game, there's no news yet on whether the remainder face redundancy or will be shuffled elsewhere within BioWare and or EA. As for our final story this week, we have Diablo IV. Diablo's general manager, Rod Ferguson, gave an interview just before the game launched, where he talked about the game's early reception, and while discussing the live service element, he casually mentioned that the team is now working on 2 expansions for the game, as Rod said that the working process for Diablo IV had to take into account of the fact that the game's development is intended to be a marathon rather than a sprint, and Blizzard didn't want a situation where the game launched and the team who made it was burned out. Rod said, so you have to build your team and your structure around a way you can do that sustainably, because you're kind of always shipping in a way. As I sit here about to launch the main game, we're finishing up Season 1, we're working on Season 2, we're working on Expansion 1, we're kicking off Expansion 2. We're working on that now, and we haven't even launched the game. Of course, Diablo 4 has now launched, and with them already working on the second season for the game as well as 2 expansions, it's safe to assume that we'll expect to see them sooner rather than later. But that's all we have time for this week. If you have any thoughts on anything discussed this week, please leave in the comment section below as always, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.